Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the Tuesday Night Hang. This is what we do. We hang on Tuesdays, preferably upside down, but you know, the blood rushes to my head a lot, so I try to sit up normally. How's everybody on this nice Tuesday in February? Just saying hello and appreciate everybody coming to the hang. Today, actually, I feel like it's today because we're starting early. Tonight is actually our 61st episode, I believe. Wow. That's a lot of fingers and toes to count. Anyway, welcome to the hang. I'm Carl Fischer, and we're going to have a nice time tonight talking to our friends. My friend here who has been on 61 episodes, my co-host, partner in crime with Fish Music, and he's a good dude in LaGrange area of Illinois, where it's really warm. Say hello to my friend Stephen Wright.
What's going on, guys? How you doing?
How's it going? How you doing, huh?
How you doing? Dude,
What's
it's
going on
35 here today.
Oh, you should have your bikini on.
I know. I almost had to take the sweatshirt off, but
Oh, yeah, have your tea back on. Oh, jeez.
I'm not in two-piece shape yet.
You can show everybody your Chicago special meats. I heard they have special meats. I have their extra special meats to Chicago. A little sausage, some nice things, and we're showing everybody your brajol, your special meats.
It's the Italian beef love handle.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we have to go with this theme tonight because we have another Chicago guy coming on. Even though he hasn't been in Chicago in a long time, but he's born and bred there, and he likes hot dogs. When I first met our esteemed guest, when I first actually talked to him, I think it was in front of a hot dog roller. So
seems appropriate.
Yeah. Well, it might have been in front of a guitar behind a hot dog roller. I don't know.
Yeah.
What's going on over there?
We already got people in the chat talking about how this went south real fast.
Yeah, special. Well, it starts with a friend of mine that's probably on here, or whatever. It's a special meat, nothing like a little Chicago beef, Vienna beef. It's all good.
Yeah.
What's going on over there? Anything?
We've been busy. You know that. I love how we get on here. That's my favorite part of the show, when we get on here and act like we haven't talked in a week.
And it's amazing because we might talk 2-3 times a day, and there's always something going on. There's always like, oh, did you hear this? Oh, we have to do this, or Carl, you got to do this, or vice versa. It's kind of funny. It's good to be busy. Yep,
definitely. Had a really great response to the Wonderful World video. So
cool.
So that was a great thing over the last couple of weeks. It's been really good. So thank you guys for doing that, watching that, and supporting, and all the new subscribers and stuff. So
yes. I think what are we up to 32,000 plus views on that video?
Yeah, it got over 32,000. I think it's getting close to 33 now.
Well, I'd say weeks. Well, that's amazing, and I got to tell you, I know why it's 32. It's almost 33,000. My mother has watched it 32,000 times. Thanks, Ma.
She's logged into the phone. She's logged into an iPad. She's
got every computer going, and she doesn't even know how to use computers. But she's got 2999. She's checked it out a lot. No, we really appreciate the support. That's amazing. 33,000 people in 2 weeks. I'm proud of that.
Yeah, definitely, man.
And we haven't gotten too much hate mail, so that's always good.
No, hasn't been. Well, there was one, but that was me.
Oh yeah, well, I curse you. Oh Lord.
Nah, but it's been all good. Besides that, man, we just been. Honestly, I've been working with YouTube and those guys a lot, trying to get some stuff straight that they can't seem to even understand. So.
That's saying something.
Yeah. Well, they're telling me that our stream is too complex. They're like, normal streamers don't pull in people from 3 different locations all over the world and then try to make it all look like they're in one place. And I was like, well, get it together. Let's go.
Come on. We're not normal. We've never been normal, so that's the issue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm glad you straightened it out.
All good, man.
Cool. What
about you? What's going on down there?
Things are good, man. It's a rainy day down here. Things are good. We'll talk about my representation tonight. This is the last Mango. from Key West. This is a buddy of mine. This is actually Jimmy Buffett's brand, Last Mango. And it kind of runs in tonight's theme, as our guest tonight is Ricky LaPointe Chainsaw, who's a guitar tech for the wonderful guitarist Tommy Burns and Mike Del Judas, and the bassist Andy Sashan on the Billy Joel tour. So Chainsaw has been with us for eons. That's a big word to say. Chainsaw's been with us for a long time, so he's going to be our guest. But the reason I bring him into the fold right now, just talking about him, is because he's also one of my fishing and fishing and motorcycle partners. And so when I first joined Billy's band, we were fishing quite a bit. We need to fish more. One of the days, though, we actually got to hang out. We actually hired this gentleman who I'm going to talk about with the Last Mango, Jimmy Buffett's captain, Mr. Vinny LaSorsa. It's a picture of Chainsaw and our buddy Drew from the Billy Joel tour, out on the old Bertram on my own boat, catching hog snapper. That was a good day. But anyway, Vinny LaSorsa is Jimmy Buffett's captain, and he started this Last Mango merchandising. I don't even know how to explain it. I'll have him explain it when he comes on. But him and I think Sarah are going to be on here. We talked just before we got on the stream tonight. They're going to come on and talk about what they do, because they have some wonderful things that they're doing for our veterans, and they do some really, really wonderful work with their program that they started with taking the veterans fishing and hunting, and their program's just amazing. So, he's a buddy of mine, and he was at the show. He came to the Hollywood show in South Florida a couple weeks ago. So,
that's cool.
Yeah,
that'll be a fun one.
Yeah, he's really cool. He's a great fisherman, a good friend of ours, and he likes special meats too. He's from New York, so he likes special meats. But yeah, so Chainsaw is my fishing partner down here, as well as Drew also. So it's kind of, tonight's theme might go a little left from motorcycles to fishing to guitars to trumpet. Who knows? Who the hell knows? But we appreciate the fish heads coming out. That's the chat. If you guys are new to the hang, we have the chat coming down. I can't really see it because A, I'm blind, and B, I can't read. So Stephen will decipher that to us and feed us questions. But you guys hit us with some questions and comments, and we'd like to have a community hang with everybody. What else? What else am I missing? We talked about Vinny. We talked about the video, which is amazing. If you guys like the video, actually, we talked really quickly about the video. I had a couple emails recently asking me what the deal is with the steps. There's some steps. There's a picture of Louis Armstrong on his steps, and there's a gentleman next to me, which is my late father, Charlie. And so people actually email me about, hey, what's the deal with the steps? Long story short, What a Wonderful World, Louis Armstrong performed for years, and his house was in Corona, Queens, in New York, and now is a staple of any jazz musician's sacred place to go check out, and it's a museum. So actually those steps are actually his steps that my dad and I were hanging out on. They're modernized. They look a little different than they looked when Louis was on them in the 70s, but those are the famous steps. And there's another picture in there that people reference too. In the beginning of the video of What a Wonderful World, there is a collage. It looks like a painted collage of Louis Armstrong, and looks like the World's Fair. There's a world there, and a really cool shot, and it's my mom and dad on that, and that's across the street from Lewis's house. So what I'm getting at is, if you ever go through Queens, New York, and are looking for something to do other than eat and go shop, and you got to go to Louis Armstrong's house in Corona, Queens, because it's a special place. So that's what those frames were in that video. So hopefully that answered that question. But if you guys like the video and the music, there's two things we'd like to talk about really quick. If you like it, we gave it out totally for free because I just wanted to get out there, and I'm glad 33,000 people are going to check it out. Send it to your friends and family and just circulate it. And I think, Stephen, we're putting it out as a download and streaming platform now, correct?
Yeah, we're actually in the process of getting that all through distribution. So the streaming platforms, your website also So if people want to have a copy of it without having to go through one of those platforms, you'll be able to go directly to Carl's website. But then we'll also have it on like Apple Music, Spotify.
And that's where I make a lot of money. So definitely download it because I get for every.
Uh-oh. There we go.
Hey.
All right, we're back. There was a little hang there. We had a hang on the hang.
Nothing like gremlins. You better talk to those freaking YouTube people and Facebook people. I'm tired. Hey guys, I'm tired of you. You guys are hanging me up all the time.
Yeah, exactly. No, but what I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted was, we'll have it on all the streaming platforms, like Apple Music and even Amazon, and I think there's like 150. So if you get 40 million streams or so, we'll make like a couple $100.
Hey man, you and I can go have a hot dog and a couple beers. Go get some special Chicago meats.
Yep.
You know? Hey,
exactly.
It's all good. No, and actually the track that we're releasing is the same track, What a Wonderful World, but it's it is the extended play version. So there's a little bit more substance in there where we kind of talk about taking it left. There's a little bit more openness and soloing in that second version that you could check out. But enough about that. We appreciate the support. And Steven and I will throw a campaign out when the track comes out. And if you could check that out and stream it, it would be wonderful.
Yep.
So without further ado, we talked about all things that revolved around this gentleman, like I said, with motorcycles and guitars, basses at Chicago. This gentleman now is coming from Orlando, Florida. He's been in Orlando for a few years now. He's been with Billy for, I want to say it's close to 30. He'll tell us the story. He was on the podcast, if you call this a podcast. He was on our stream hang before with Wayne Williams. If you don't know this guy, you need to know him because he takes care of it. He takes care of it all, actually. He's very versed in a lot of different things, and he keeps us laughing. So without further ado, let's say hello to Chainsaw, Ricky LaPointe.
Hey, Carl.
What's going on, bro?
Can you hear me? Got it?
What's happening?
How you doing, buddy?
We're doing good, man. What's going on with you?
Just a rainy day.
Rainy Florida day, huh, brother?
Yep. Been pretty busy lately with packing up my house. It's time to sell.
You're going somewhere else, huh?
Closer to the water, maybe. I don't know.
Coming over by me, man. You're coming over by me, I heard.
You better believe it.
So we can fish more.
Yeah, that's a pretty good reason right there, if nothing else.
Yeah, man. So everybody knows you're in the Central Florida area, right?
Most people know it. Been here for a while. Been in this house for 12 years.
How long? 12 years?
Yeah.
Wow. So let's get the year thing. So 12 years in Orlando. Before that, it was Arizona, if I remember correctly, right?
Arizona in about 91. I was in LA for about a year.
And that worked out really well. You loved LA, didn't you?
Valley. I was kind of, out in the sticks at the time, but
gotcha.
It was a good place to be when you're looking for work.
Yeah, man, it's a great place to be for that. Yeah.
And then spent about 17, 18 years in Arizona, and then headed this way in, 2007.
Okay. Yeah, it makes
And,
sense. You're from Illinois, though, correct?
Yeah, I grew up in Chicago, northwest suburbs, and one day I just said I'm never going to scrape ice or shovel snow ever again. Period.
I understand that.
I one of my bikes and a bunch of stuff and headed west, and as far west and south as I could go without running into the Pacific Ocean, and kind of just like stopped there and enjoyed the weather.
Nice.
But,
Do you miss the special meats from Chicago? Because I know you have the hot dog roller on tour with them. Who do the thing?
On my birthday the other night.
Yes, happy birthday, belated. Everybody Chainsaw have been around the sun again. And this should really be Chainsaw's birthday stream. You're going to have a lady pop out of one of those bass guitars here in a few minutes, right?
Yeah, out of the guitar.
Yeah.
It's big enough.
Happy birthday, buddy.
My wife made me a Chicago beef sandwich with a hot Italian sausage and provolone cheese.
So about the meats.
Off the charts. So
Nice.
She did great. And it was like, I'm back in Chicago.
Hey, man, remember that place? Say hello to Zoe. That's awesome. She did that. What was the place you took me to in Orlando? The Chicago hot dog joint. That was great.
Yeah,
too, man.
it's a fairly new place called the Chicago Hot Dog Company, and they do pretty good.
It's diet food, right? It's diet food?
It's all like health food. It's all like low calorie. It's gluten free. It's low sugar.
Yeah.
And some things are no sugar added.
It's perfect. Oh, yeah. Added.
Very important.
Yeah, because, you got the pound of sugar first, but
Yeah.
there's no sugar after.
They didn't
No
add
sugar
any
after
more
that.
than that.
Exactly. It's safe.
You get the sugar that's on the donut, but then don't put any extra on there.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, Lord.
which is, a healthy choice right there. So.
Yeah, man. Oh, oh, man. Well, we appreciate you coming on, dude.
It's great to see you and do the hang. It's been too long.
Yeah, it's been a while, man. It's been a while, and I see you have you're resting your hand on a Kurzweil. That looks familiar.
This company does not exist anymore.
No,
so neither does this.
I got you.
It doesn't exist anymore.
I got you.
This one met a horrible death at Shea Stadium.
Oh, that was the Shea Stadium one?
Yep.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, wait, that's the Shea Stadium one.
No, I think mine took a bad death too. There's a whole bunch of keys that don't work. And I think that was around Shea. I think that was around Shea.
Yeah. Well, this one had to be swapped out because of technical difficulties, but
yeah,
it was anyway. So we found a new home here in the museum.
I love the museum. So those are all bases behind you, obviously.
Yeah, that's the wall of bass there.
Nice.
This is like the cozy corner up here.
Is that where you put your feet up and smoke a cigar?
Yeah, I got the Oriental rug down there, and
Smoke your pipe.
The air evacuation fans over here, so they smoke right out. But,
you wear your robe and you smoke your pipe in that cozy corner with the basses.
Yeah,
that's nice.
So I get some nicotine stains on them. They love that.
They've been used at the museum.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a pretty good collection of them. There's actually the two right there. Those were T-Bone Walk's basses on the River of Dreams tour.
Really?
And, at the end of the tour, he said, "You take these home and make sure that they're safe in case I come back to do this again." And they're still waiting. But
T-Bone, wow, man.
We're not going to see T-Bone, are we?
No, God bless him.
I cherish those, and I look at them all the time and think about how much fun we had with him playing on stage. And any Beatles song you can imagine, he was all over it.
He was a force, and he actually, for people who don't know T-Bone, right? How long was he on Billy's band for? Would you say?
I think all of the River of Dreams tour.
Okay.
93, 94, then 95 at some point. We did a lot of shows.
Yeah. Yeah, I never got to meet him. I got to hear him play a few times, not with Billy, but with a couple of different things throughout the years, and was totally blown away. And talking about special meets, they still to this day, Mark Rivera, yourself, Wayne Williams, talk about him always having the safety sandwich.
The safety sandwich. and the bandolero of hot sauce.
So tell us about that. Yeah.
Tabasco sauce. He had it on a belt around his bag, and he was ready to break it out at any second.
You never know when you need hot sauce in a sandwich, a safety sandwich.
He would show up on an overseas flight with a big shopping bag full of everything you could buy at the Italian deli, and he busted out. As soon as that flight was in the air, we'd take over the whole upper level of a 747 and it's just decadence. It's awesome. I don't know how he got that knife on the plane to slice all that stuff up, but
I wonder who had it.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
It did show up at some point because
Yep. Nothing like a special meat sandwich on a 747.
Yeah. Awesome. For a flight to New Zealand or something.
Well, talking about T-Bone, we talked about your moving around. When did you, just to bring everybody up to speed, because we have some Billy heads, we also have some jazz heads. We have a lot of different people with different interests and backgrounds. How long have you been on Billy's band? I said close to 30 years, and explain to people, because I love the story, how you got to where you are, because this is very interesting, especially for younger people, because, you didn't start being a tech right away, and let's just, I'm not your friend right now. The probably the most recognized, most together guitar tech I'd say in the world. You mentioned Chainsaw. Everybody knows you. Everybody sees you. You've done a million different tours. So it didn't start that way, though. So tell me about the timeline and how it worked, if you can kind of tell everybody.
Well, I was always into music, but I was never going to be a guy that played music. I was in bands when I was like a teenager, and I found out quick how hard it was to keep a group of 4 or 5 guys together thinking the same way and actually push through, learn songs, and be successful. But I realized very young, like 16 years old, that it wasn't for me. That standing up there on the stage, staring into a light, counting to 4 over and over and over again, I was like, this isn't for me. But I really like doing all this stuff. I like, I love the guitar. I love to play the guitar. I played bass when I was, younger, but I never got that good at it.
Okay.
And, but I realized quick that I could go and help these guys set up and get their stuff moved around. And I didn't have to, stand up on stage and count to 4. I could go out to the truck and, load stuff up or fix something or, hang out with people. I still got to go to all the cool places, and then it evolved into working at a lighting company in Chicago. I went there to work, in the evenings after I was, at my regular job, which I was a locksmith. And
that explains a lot that you were a locksmith.
My fingers off in Chicago, in doorways fixing locks. Like, this isn't for me either.
Okay.
So I started working at this lighting company about 79 or 80. And next thing you know, I was getting on a bus and going on a tour and, leaving home, and it just got into my blood instantly. And I was doing exactly what I wanted to do. And, but I was doing lights at the time. And then I decided that I wanted to learn how to drive trucks so I could do that too. And so I kind of did both for a while. And then, the truck driving thing, got to be, a lot better because I became a lead driver and I could go to the tours that I wanted to go on and, meet a lot of people who were, in the business and that were influential to, get you on a better tour. And you always want to get on something better and better and better.
Sure.
And so I got really lucky in 1984 after driving for about 5 years. 4 years. I got on a Billy tour, on the Keeping the Faith tour, and started that like January 1984.
Wow.
And so that was the beginning. And instantly became friends with everybody on the tour. Everybody was treated like, they were friends. Everybody, it was like a family, a family situation. And they even had a room called the family room back then. And where everybody could go, the wives and the kids and whoever would go and have that room. But I realized that it was a different organization than all the other ones I had worked for. And I worked for dozens of other tours, and none of them came close to that. So I would always, like Billy is my, that's my number one choice. I want to go work on a Billy Joel tour, and got lucky to stay on that for months and months, and became friends with everybody, the band, and the Boomer, who was the stage manager at the time, and we became friends, and it was a good situation. And then after that, I went on to a Springsteen tour right away with some of the same drivers, and then Billy went back out in '86 to do the Bridge tour.
Okay.
And so I said I need to be on that tour, and they, my company put me on the tour, and that was like, if I'm not on that tour, I'm going to quit driving. I'm not driving anymore.
Chainsaw, so was that at that time, was that company's road show back in the day, or was it different?
No, that was Upstaging.
Upstaging, okay.
They were a lighting and trucking company out of Chicago. They're still there. They're
okay,
very, it's a huge company. And
yeah, sure.
But I learned a lot there, and I credit them for putting me out into the world and letting me do my thing, and they were very good about that. And I got my license and started driving, and then I never looked back. But while I was driving on the Bridge tour,
okay,
the drum tech and the guitar tech had to leave the tour like halfway through, and they were responsible for another band, and they had to go and leave the Billy tour to go back to a band that they were on retainer with. So they had to leave. So we had a little bit of time, so I kind of put my hand up and volunteered, and I kind of got the nod because I was friends with everybody. I was friends with the band guys. I was friends with production, and I had kind of proven myself to be dependable, and they gave me my chance. And I kind of slid into that spot, and I did the other guitar tech's gig for about a month, and learned what I needed to learn. And there were, several people on the tour who were willing to show me the ropes on a lot of things when it came to electronics and guitar stuff, and just doing that type of work. And I just kind of do it. And it was
so I'm gonna just go back a second. So the drum tech and the guitar tech left mid-tour. Since you were a kid, you played bass, played guitar. You went right into the guitar thing. You say, I want to do guitar tech.
There was a lot to learn, but I kind of already had the feel. I had guitars. I had guitars since I was 5 years old, but
absolutely,
I was never really a musician. But I really enjoyed working on them. I loved to play them, but I just never got that good at it. Okay. So I just kind of like locked into a job that I really enjoyed doing. And, it's been, I don't know, we're going on 35 years or something like that now.
Yeah, 84.
And, like I said, I still learn something new every day, and I still try to. And, but, it was a good career change at the right time. Yep. And shortly after that, I was getting on overseas flights, going to Australia, we went to, England, we went to Russia, which was an amazing experience right there. We traveled all over the world, and and I was with my best friends, and that was the best part about it. And we're all, so many of us, all the ones that are still, with Billy, which is a lot of us, we're all still best friends.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't either.
I don't know. Who the hell are you?
I have best friends, but I didn't want to brag about it.
No one wants to admit that, though.
Nobody says, "Oh yeah, he's my best friend." Nobody says that.
No, it's all good.
But anyways,
we have fun.
It was a good situation, and it worked out well. And
Yes,
now I've been in 70 countries and 6 continents, and it learned a lot and made great friends, and hopefully I helped make music special for people who came to see it. And
without a doubt,
I was a part of that the system that makes that happen, because
the biggest support system is amazing.
Cogs and wheels and screws that have to turn to make everything come out perfect, and we try to do that. We try to do that every night. And, but yeah, it's been a good 38 years, something like that. I don't know. I lost count.
Yeah, it's a long time, man. It's a long time.
Yeah.
So not only do you, we're going to open it up for some questions and comments here coming up, but not only does Chainsaw, I say this a lot in workshops and schools and clinics and stuff like this, is like, you're never afraid to get involved. And I tell young people, it's like, you might not, I was lucky. My touring days started with being a stage, a tech, assistant stage manager. I don't even know how to spell it at that time. It's like, huh? Nothing's beneath you, but I wanted to be around music, and I was, I like you, I want to play, and I played, and, so I tell a lot of young people still to this day is get over yourself, go out and, try to do as many things as possible to get you to spread your wings, so to speak. That being said, so spreading your wings, we were showing some photos here in the gallery, and up until it comes out occasionally still sometimes. There's a nice little, as Billy Joel says, there's a nice little sacred song that you sing occasionally. And how did that come about? Let's talk about you singing Highway to Hell, the AC/DC track.
It was just a fluke sound check idea.
Okay.
And
did you sang this before with another band, or how did even the fluke happen? You messing around?
I did it a long time ago, in like '84, when I was a driver. We were doing sound check, and we got this idea because the guys on the crew were better musicians than they could actually get up and play. And so we said, we had all these wigs and these glasses in a disguise case, right? So these big, long haired wigs and stuff. And so we put them all on, and we went. And I go. I'll sing. I can sing, and we can do "Born to Be Wild." I can do that song, no problem. I can do that backwards. So we wait for the band to show up, and then they kind of herd the band around the stage and around to the front instead of going up on stage, and we go into the beginning of "Born to Be Wild." And so the band's all out there, and they're like, "What the hell? Who are those guys?" The long hair and the glasses on, and it took them about, I don't know, maybe a minute to figure out it was the crew. And we belted out "Born to Be Wild," and next thing you know, the band's up on stage, cracking up and having a lot of laughs. So we had done that in sound check a bunch of times, and in the past we had done different songs, and you know, just out of the blue, we would like go into a bar and just take over, like stage rate a band that's in a rock club somewhere and get up and do Johnny Be Good or Rocky Mountain Way or whatever. And I, just try to remember the words as best as I could. But it was fun. And, we started doing it more and more. And I did it with, I did it way back with David Lindley when he was opening up for Jackson Browne, and we did a Highway to Hell. And he did the solo on a lap steel guitar, and was hilarious. And but we would play it at soundcheck all the time. So on the Billy tour, Billy would try to do a local band song. If we would go to New Zealand, if there was a band from New Zealand, he would try to do one of their songs. Or we go to England, he'd do whatever. But in certain countries, he'd try to do a local band song just to kind of fit in.
Sure.
And so we were going to Australia, and we're in Sydney, and we are trying to figure out a song for Billy to play. That's an Australian band, and they're yelling out "In Excess." They get to AC/DC, and Billy goes, "I can't sing AC/DC." Yeah. And Tommy looks at Billy and goes, "Chainsaw can."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Uh-oh." And so Tommy went right into Highway to Hell.
There it is.
And I'm like, "Oh, this one's easy. It's only a couple verses. Nothing to it." So, of course, we got up with the mic and sound check, and, Billy's kind of laughing along with it. And he's like, "That actually sounds okay." Yeah. So that night in Sydney, he calls me up, and we, I got up there and just, put down my, tuners and picked up a microphone and went up and did Highway to Hell, and the place kind of went crazy. I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." So doing a local song is a big hit here in Sydney, I guess. So it turned into a regular thing. And, it's fun for the band. It's fun for the crowd because it's something different, especially if they had not seen it before. It was kind of cool.
Sure.
We don't do it at the Garden very much because we've done it so many times and people have been there over again that, it's like, okay, it's not really a surprise anymore. Let's do something else.
Sure. Well, whenever you do it, I love people who haven't seen that particular tune on a show. You you said, the Garden, we've been there almost 100 times or over 100 times. I'm not really sure. Yeah. Probably over 100, yeah. Yeah, way over 100. But when we go to the cities that haven't really been exposed to it, I love seeing people's faces. It's great.
Expecting it, if you go to Tulsa, and then all of a sudden the show makes a left-hand turn, and there's strobe lights and smoke, and it goes crazy.
Not John, just because your vocal qualities are great. It's great. But what my favorite part of it is when you abuse the audience and you shoot the fire extinguisher and you throw water at them. It's because you love them, right? Is that how it is?
It's my way of connecting. There's the stage and there's the crowd, and then to bridge that gap,
you need something.
To use a chemical substance like water or CO2. There's nothing dangerous about it. It's just for the reaction.
You're just trying to get closer to the people.
Yeah, I want to reach out.
Yeah,
if I tried to reach out, I'd fall off the stage and I'd be in trouble.
And just in case something's smoldering, you put it out quick. It's okay.
Already.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
Try to keep Tommy's fingers a little cooled off before they burn up the guitar.
Yeah, he burns those fingers, man. Oh Lord. Oh, that's great. So we hit a lot of things, and I see the chat happening. Do we have people talking and asking questions, Steve-O?
No.
Oh yeah.
No.
Yeah, I had to break out a pencil.
Oh boy.
Yep. And we got a bunch of people hanging out with us. I'm actually not even able to see everybody. But yeah, we got some of the hang regulars. We got our hang president Noah is here. We always mention Noah by name because he's the president. Got a bunch of new people hanging out tonight that has subscribed since the Wonderful World video came out. So thank you guys for joining. If you got here because somebody shared it, you can also hit that subscribe button, and you'll get notified whenever we do other shows in the future. But yeah, I've got a bunch of questions here, so I kind of want to skip the say hello to every single person and go right into it if you guys are cool with that.
Well, just do a blanket. Hello. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing? Have some special meats. All right, go ahead.
Let's see. The first one was, and I know we talked about it in, if you can believe this, episode 7. 54 episodes ago was when Chainsaw was on the first time.
Jesus.
I know we talked about it a little bit then, but for the new people, we've got a couple of people asking where the nickname Chainsaw comes from.
Okay. The real story is, when I was a teenager, I had these beat up old cars, and they were loud and obnoxious, and I drove them around on the streets of my little suburban town and terrorized everybody with aircraft landing lights and no mufflers, and doing all kinds of sort of illegal things driving around. And so the local police would eventually start pulling me over and giving me tickets for equipment violations, like no mufflers and aircraft landing lights on the highway, which is illegal. And so, because the cars were so obnoxious and so loud, that I nicknamed the cars Chainsaw. So the first one got stuck in the mud and flipped over, and it met a really bad demise, and that was Chainsaw. Then there was Chainsaw 2, and that one lasted a lot longer, and it was even louder. So written on the side in like blood spray paint letters dripping down the side of the truck, the car, Chainsaw 2. And I'd run that thing around. I'd put big like truck tires on it and aircraft landing lights, because I had a connection at a lighting company and wired those in, and I'd turn those things on and blind everybody on the street. And so the local cops would pull me over, and they started calling me Chainsaw.
Oh God.
So they'd be like, well, you're going to have to post a bond. We're going to go in, we're going to impound your car, and we're having eggs in the morning. You just stay the night at the police station. We're having eggs in the morning. And I'd be like, oh no, you can't impound my car. Don't do that. Not my good car. And so anyways, they'd tow the car, impound it. I'd have to come up with $35 to post the bond. And so eventually all the local cops were calling me Chainsaw. So fast forward about a year and a half or 2 years, when I get on my first bus to go and work as a lighting guy on a Cheap Trick tour. We're sitting on the bus, and there's all these guys, like there's 3 sound guys or 4 sound guys, 2 other lighting guys, and everybody's going around and introducing themselves for the first time. And I'm sitting there, my eyes are like this big. I'm like, oh my God, these guys are like pros. These guys have been doing this forever. I'm like in the middle of, I'm way over my head here with these guys. I don't know shit about what I'm doing, but these guys have been doing sound and stuff for 10 years. And so they start introducing themselves. I'm Tom, I'm Joe, I'm John, I'm Jim. And we didn't even get like 3 guys, and I've already forgotten all their names. But the one guy says, everybody calls me Hazel. And I'm like, oh, that's a different name. That's cool. You know, and I'm like, why do they call you Hazel? He goes, well, because I stay up on the bus all night and clean it, which was a show in the 60s called Hazel the Maid.
Sure.
And so this guy would stay up on the bus every night and clean the bus. And they'd wake up in the morning and the whole bus was all spick and span, vacuumed, you know, everything was, you know, all neat and nice. And so I'm thinking, I need to come up with a nickname quick. And so, because that way they'll remember my name. And so they go around and they get to me and I go, you know what? Everybody just calls me Chainsaw. And they go, oh, really? Why? And of course they wanted to know everything. And I made up more stories than you can imagine. And so I would just like spit out some kind of lie about it or whatever. And eventually it just became my name. And there are people, I've been on tours with people who never even knew what my real name is. There's still people that I've known for 20 years that don't know what my real name is. And but it was something that was easy to remember. And you know, here we are 40 years later, and you know, I'm still going by Chainsaw.
Cool.
So
I think you answered the question. It's a wonderful, wonderful story, man. Oh, it's cool.
Yep.
You know, Chain, Mr. Chain. What else you got, Steven?
We had a couple people just chiming in, talking about you taking the chainsaw out on tour. We got Anthony. Am I gonna pronounce the last name right? But Galicchio.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Anthony's here hanging with us in the
He's
chat.
one of my brothers.
Yeah,
he's a good guy. He's a Connecticut guy, and he goes way back with Billy. And yeah, we had a need for a chainsaw here and there, and so I just so happened to have one in my truck. Because I went to a pawn shop and bought one, and so it became kind of the instrument of getting attention, like an attention-getting tool. In case you needed something, you could get like after-show food or better catering or a better parking spot for your truck. You know, if you had a little bit of leverage like that. So we would start the chainsaw up with no muffler on it, and it would get a lot of attention. And we had some fun with it. And of course I had to pay for some damages, but you know, it's an investment. It's money well spent, you know, especially those times where I got away with it and didn't have to pay for anything. But that eventually catches up with you. So
It happens.
They're fun things to have around. I just had a couple of them running the other day, and I was pretty happy that they started up. But it was cold down here, and so we needed to cut some firewood up. So I fired up a chainsaw, and everybody ran for cover.
nice.
Anyway, good to have around.
Well, I got a couple other questions that are more into the for our guitar nerds in the chat.
Yep.
I got a couple people asking. Number one, from a tech perspective, what really interests you most about the guitar, and especially a guitar in a live performance setting like what you're living in right now?
It kind of always depends on who's playing it. You know, there's guys who can pick up a guitar and just, you know, strum it and, you know, keep time and do that. But when you get to work for somebody who really masters the whole aspect of a guitar and all of the different, you know, parts of a song, and a guitar player plays exactly where he's supposed to play, it's actually very cool to be part of that and to put that guitar in that person's hand and make sure that they know that when they hit that first note or that first chord, it's going to be exactly the way he wants it to sound. And being part of that is a really great feeling, especially when you suck at playing guitar like I do. And, you know, I could barely put two notes together as it is. But, you know, when I watch somebody play, and I've been very lucky to work for some amazing guitar players. When I watch somebody play and listen to it, and you hear the parts that they're actually playing, because we hear it so many times over and over, you can hear the parts that they have perfected for whatever tour or whatever song they're playing or whatever artist they're working for. And, you know, Tommy's a great example of that. Tommy learned the keyboard first. So he plays a lot like a piano player. The piano player plays all the different parts of the song, you know, but, you know, a lot of guitar players just play their parts and leave it at that. You know, Tommy goes in and he plays, you know, the rhythm, the melody, he plays harmony notes, he plays like a piano player. And that is really, you know, that's an amazing thing to watch. And, you know, I've worked for guys like Peter Frampton and Neil Schon and, you know, very famous guitar players, Stephen Stills, and, you know, they all have their style and they all have their way of playing, but being part of them playing guitar in front of people, and like I said, putting that guitar in that person's hand and then play those first notes, and you know, and you're confident that that thing's going to sound just perfect for that person every time. That's the goal, and that is the best feeling for somebody like me. You know, all the technical stuff, that's all like plugging things in, making decent cables, making sure you use the, you know, right components and everything's adjusted just right. That kind of stuff, you know, is very important, and having backups in case there's a problem. Also, making sure that those problems are as minimal as possible. So if you see something that, or hear something that may not be right, you fix it before anybody else notices it. And that's the, you know, right there is the key to being successful. You know, they always say a guitar roadie fixes stuff after it's broken. The guitar tech fixes it before it breaks.
Absolutely.
And you head it off at the pass, and you just you squash that problem out before it actually exists for anybody to notice. And if you can do that, you know, it's like going to the next step. You know, you've done well. But I'm always like replacing cables and replacing, you know, components and changing things. And, you know, if something's wrong with something, it gets, you know, pulled out and either worked on by somebody or, you know, fixed by, you know, either me or my buddy Mark, who comes and helps all the time. We're either fixing something or making sure that everything is, you know, perfect every night. And, you know, that's key. You don't want to, you don't want to be there with a flashlight in your mouth trying to find a problem on a pedal board, you know, in front of 20,000 people who just paid, you know, $100 and some a piece to come and see it. You don't want to be that guy.
You want to fly under the radar and be unnoticed. Yeah. You want to have your
if
just
you
like
see
being
me on stage, unless it's for Highway to Hell. If you see me up on stage in the middle of a song, that's bad. You want to avoid that at all costs.
Oh, stop.
Avoid that. But
what I'm trying to say, Chainsaw, is if you go unnoticed, that's probably the best thing you could do as far as being a tech, is what you're saying.
You know, that's why we wear black. That's why we lay low. That's why we grow our hair long and hide our faces so nobody can tell. That's why I did it back then when I had long hair.
I got
I'm
you.
like, I don't want anybody to know who I am. I got to hunt.
No, but you know, you definitely have your own. Your like I said, I mention your name still to this day, and people are like, oh man, that guy, he's the best of the best, which is cool. But you know, you touched on you touched on a lot of things. So again, I got to rewind to a lot of things because again, not everybody. There's a lot of guitar players on here, but not everybody's a guitar player, and not everybody is in a rock and roll thing where they, you know. So you touch on so many wonderful like freaking diamonds that you touched on, and actually you're a poet and you didn't even know it because I'll touch on a couple of these things too. The way you write things, you actually made the new tour book. You wrote some beautiful things. You've always written some really eloquent things, but you're not a one-trick pony. That's what I'm trying to show by example, because you have so many different things that you offer. So one of the things that you touched on that I think is important, I could talk about as a band, and I'm sure, correct me if I'm wrong, Chainsaw, is you touched on Tommy Burns, our guitar player, lead guitar player, and I'm going to touch on Mike Del Judas and also Andy Sashan, just because they're playing stringed instruments. I'm going to touch on those guys really quick, and I'm going to also touch on what you wrote for the tour book. But what I'm going to say from my point of view, and from I think a lot of people who are not guitar players. Actually, I played mandolin when I was a kid. I loved mandolin, but I busted the strings, and you know I was horrible. And just like I played drums and busted the drum heads. But long story short, what you touched on something very interesting with the Billy Joel band that I don't know if a lot of people know. And after 61 episodes, I never touched on any of this either. So Tommy Burns studied classical piano. He's very versed in harmony. Theory. He won't tell you he knows a lot about theory, but he does.
He won't tell you, but we know.
We know. We've seen him.
You feel it when he plays.
Correct.
If you're observant enough and you understand the structure of a song and music, you can feel it as a listener or a fan or a bandmate, and you can feel it when somebody plays like that. And that is like such a, it's such a huge aspect to a great musician. And, our whole band is, overrun with that. Everybody has their,
that's what I'm trying to talk about. It's amazing because, and it's just in your section now. That's what I'm trying to say. Here's the difference, and this is where I'm going to bust your chops now. Here's the difference. So Tommy knows his harmony, which we know, being a guitar player is one thing, but Tommy's got his piano skills totally. He's a complete musician. So now we're going to go on to the next guy, Mike Del Judas. I met as a bass player. Mike Del Judas plays piano. Mike Del Judas plays drums. Mike Del Judas sings backup harmony. He sings lead harmony. He can do it all. Andy Sashan, when I first met Andy, I heard that he was a rock and roll guitar player.
He was a guitar player.
He's also a classical pianist, right? And so now you have three guys that you take care of that they can swing any instrument that is in your arsenal that you take care of. So that's got to be a pretty special camp on your end. You have three guys, and and what's amazing is they know also that the vintage stuff like no one's business, which is amazing. I've seen you with the vintage. What I mean by the vintage stuff for guys who are not guitar heads. I've seen you like the Fender you made. That was like a copy. You've made, exactly. You know how to get the sounds out of these instruments that people dream of. So you have three guys that you're taking care of on this tour that are not just badass guitar players or bass players. They're just full on musical, man. So explain to me how that works for you, brother.
Well, the first thing is you can't be intimidated by that. So if you go and you work for somebody who's like, a really great musician, you've got to be up to their level of taking care of their equipment, because they expect those instruments to be at their very best when you hand it to them. As when I hand a guitar to Tommy or anything, put it in the rack, the basses, those things are absolutely perfectly in tune. If they're not, I'm like in trouble. And I have to make sure they stay in tune for, 23, 24 songs. And, Andy's very good. He's got a great ear. He knows when something's off a little bit. And, we try to keep that to a minimum because he's kind of up there in the middle of the stage and hard to get up. It's hard, not hard to get up there, but you don't want to have to go up there for something like a tuning problem. So it does happen every once in a while, but we try to keep it minimal. Working for guys that, are very insistent on things sounding perfectly, you've got to be up to their level of preparing that instrument. You have to stretch the strings. You have to make sure you use the right gauges and the right everything. And the bridges are adjusted perfectly. And the wirelesses are set. The levels are right. There's so much involved. And you just got to manage that. You got to oversee everything. And, for, 35 years, I took care of, all the guitars with the band. We didn't have Mike, but we've had other rhythm players come in on and off from time to time. But you've got to be really, really versed on the instrument that you're working on. You need to get to know all of them because every guitar's got a different personality. And every guitar has different tendencies. Sometimes, certain guitars don't like to stay in tune. Heavy bodies with light necks tend to like pull sharp when you're playing them. You got to kind of, make up for that. You've got to find the balance there when you're tuning an instrument like that. Some guys come and they play with the guitar real close to their body. So when you tune it, you want that guitar to be as, straight as possible. Then you got guys that kind of lean back when they play and put pressure on the neck. So then you've got to kind of adjust your tuning maybe a little bit flat. So when he's playing on the neck, it doesn't pull sharp.
All right, so you're giving away total secrets of the trade right now. If I was a young guitar player or just into any type of production, right there, again, there's the catalyst. Those are the diamonds right there. The way a girl or guy holds a guitar is going to change the tuning of it and tone, right?
Mimic that stance when you're tuning. So that could mean like either you're holding it on a strap like they do, or you tune an acoustic that has an old style strap where it goes to the neck.
Okay.
You've got to tune it like that, because if you don't, it's going to be, it's not going to be right when that musician puts it on. Like
right, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm getting excited. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I tuned an acoustic guitar for Joan Baez. It was in 1988, and I brought it to her, and I go, "You're all tuned up. You're ready to go." And I plugged in her guitar, and she goes, "Did you tune it with the strap? Did you wear it with the strap when you tuned it?" And I went, "Yes. As a matter of fact, I did." And in my head, I'm thinking, why would she ask me that? Did I do something to the strap? And then I realized it's because that strap going out to the headstock puts a different pressure on the neck. And when she rests her hand and plays comfortably, if you don't kind of mimic that as you're tuning, it's going to be completely off when she starts.
Man, it's amazing.
And everybody that I've worked for has taught me something. I don't care who it was. Right. I worked for Jackson Brown. I learned more from him than almost anybody else. The tunings and harmonies and harmonics and different ways to if a certain song, if the guitar's being used on one song and the register of that song is like between the 5th and 8th fret or something like that, you want to make sure that the intonation of that particular guitar is perfect in that range.
Sure.
Even if it's just for the one song, because then you can adjust back. Because as you press on strings, the harder you press, the sharper the note goes. And if a lot of guys get nervous up there and they press harder than they should, and then they go, guitar's out of tune, it's out of tune, and they're like looking around and they try to tune it themselves and make a big mess out of it. But when I hand that guitar off, it's in tune. And
it's amazing that you said, because why I got so excited. You brought up Joan Baez. I was going to bring up who you worked for a long time, Melissa Etheridge.
Yep.
How would be so? Here's a question. You hit it with Joan Baez, but here would be a question. I'm gonna, because I'm a geek with this too. How would you tune an acoustic guitar, giving it to Melissa, compared to giving one to Mike Del Judas? What would be the differences?
All right, Melissa is a monster. She is probably one of the hardest playing guitar players that I've ever seen, much less heard of. She picks it up. Now, her acoustic guitars are Ovation or Adamus 12-string guitars. She's been playing those forever, and she's got a great relationship with that company. And but when we were on tour, we would go about, I would get 3 12-strings, and about 3 or 4 months later, I would have to swap them out for new ones, because she played those big major chords, strumming as hard as we could. And those guitars inside would start to rattle because of all that mass of those 12 strings playing heavy gauge strings are just vibrating the inside of that guitar apart. Wow. And so those guitars are made out of carbon fiber, graphite, all kinds of different polymers and plastics, and they have to be glued together in a vacuum with some kind of 2-part, space age epoxy. Wow. And the construction of those guitars are like unbelievable. But she'll just start playing on that thing, and she goes for 2.5 hours a night. And I get the guitars back, and she does 2 songs and we trade guitars. No. And 2 more songs and then we trade guitars, because it's just, no matter how much you stretch the strings, they're either going to go out of tune or they're going to break. So you can't get to that perfect thing. So I would just do a lot of tuning in between songs and doing changes.
So the personal playing of her. Now you get a 6-string. You're giving him a 6-string acoustic to Tommy or Mike. How would you change gears for those guys? Let's say Mike. Let's go with Mike. So it's apples and oranges to Melissa.
Mike, being a piano player, he adapted to the guitar very easily. I mean, he played bass. Yep. He's played guitar. He has guitars, but it wasn't really what he was used to doing on stage. Sure. He used to sitting at a keyboard and singing and having other people play guitar for him. But he took the guitar very, very well. I'll listen to his channel inside of his in his ISO box, and I listen to him, and it seems he's gotten very, very good. But
he's great. But how do you approach setting the guitar up differently than Melissa? And how do you actually say to Mike, hey man, Melissa is beating up an Ovation, a polymer guitar, you might want to check out something. How does that? Because I know I've seen you with these conversations. I'm prepping you here. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. With Michael, we have 2 acoustics and 3 electrics up there, and he picks up his guitars as he needs them and does his changes and plugs in and goes. So his acoustics, he's playing a lot of chords, a lot of rhythm stuff that's kind of in between what Tommy's doing.
Okay.
It fits in like in between, and he's found his little place.
Sure.
He found that because he's a piano player. Yeah. And because he understands the whole the whole structure of a song.
He's a musical cat. Yeah, he's a musical guy.
So he can pick up a bass. He's done that.
Yeah.
just back in August, we watched him do that.
Sure.
And nail it. But everybody's different. And
there it is.
Brown, he plays very intricate acoustic parts, and he brings a lot of harmonics. He does a lot of tunings that are have evolved from really studying guitar players of the past.
Sure.
And different tuning applications to songs and adapting that to the music that he's written. And and Jackson there has learned a lot from guys like David Lindley, who's a multi-instrumentalist who plays anything. And he plays violin, he plays lap steel, pedal steel, guitar. He can play he can play anything. But Jackson learned a lot from guys like him. He learned a lot of stuff from like Wright, who's like a blues, kind of a slide, open tuning kind of guy. Bonnie Raitt, the same, amazing. I've been lucky enough to tune a few guitars for her and be completely impressed. And, but like I said, everybody has their own way and their own way of playing, and you have to kind of like understand that and adapt so you can prepare their instruments the best as possible. I mean, I remember sitting in the dressing room with Bonnie going, these tunings here, you call them this, but like other people call it something else.
Sure.
We need to go down the chart here, and I need to have the notes for every single one so I don't screw this up. And she's like, oh no, that's right. Oh no, I don't call it double drop D. I call that fret low something, something. Wow. And I need that on my one electric. And then the guild, this has to be, a full step down standard tuning. But I have to go over and like make sure that I knew all the notes that he was talking about before I started handing her guitars on stage in front of people. And but it's a learning experience. And
well, you always say that. It's amazing. Your organizational and improvisation, it's two words that I can't say back to back. Improvisational and organizational skills are second to none. If you're privy enough to go on Chainsaw's side, you're talking about your tunings, and especially I never got to see you with Bonnie or what have you, but just with the 3 stringed instruments that are on our tour, it's amazing the prep and how inside out the players, and that actually happens to every act that you work with, which is pretty amazing, man. That's why you're Chainsaw.
On our tour, we became very versed in adjusting, our keys up and down.
Yep.
For various reasons, but the fact that I have to have 3 of everything is it makes it more complex, but it's still a system that's we've been doing since 2013 and doing just well with it. And because we've developed a system, like Michael can adjust his acoustic from anywhere from a half step down all the way up to a capo on the 5th fret, and still stay in tune on stage because we prepared the guitar to do that. He also touches up a little bit on his own because he does change that a lot.
Sure.
But for the most part, his electrics, he's got a standard, a half step, and a full step down, and he picks them up as he needs them. And Tommy has 2 acoustics that get different capo positions, sometimes standard, sometimes 2nd fret, sometimes 3rd fret. Okay. And we adjust as we go. But with Tommy, we're doing changes for him so we could do the tuning and get it right on the mic there. So he just uses his acoustics in standard, and then we if he's playing a song that's a full step down or something, he can just change the voicing of the chords he's playing, because he's that. I mean, it's like transposing on the guitar, but you're using the same tuning, but you're just playing a different range or a different register of chords to fit in with that song.
Sure.
And there again, being a harmony of what the actual song is, because there's a lot of that being played on the lower end of the keyboard of the piano with Billy, and also David's playing a lot of those lower register notes, and Tommy can play stuff on the acoustic a little bit higher register.
So that gives it the spectrum of sound.
Complex, but we've worked it so it works for us, and it's been a learning experience having 3 different tunings of guitars. It was like when you put a capo on your trumpet.
There's no such thing, and that's what I'm going to bust your chops about. I got one. We got, me, Mark, and Crystal have freaking one horn for everything, man. We don't get to change capos. No, but what I'm saying is the spectrum is pretty amazing when you have the keyboard, and you guys have figured it out. And that being said, too, I will say when I started playing in rock and roll bands, and I don't, Billy's more pop, but he has some rock and roll stuff. I was coming from the jazz head, but I started playing with a lot of guitar heavy bands back probably in, I say mid 90s. I always was figuring out, man, I'm always out of tune playing with these guitar players. What the hell? And this is a thing that horn players really need to hear, whether you play soprano sax or trumpet or trombone, doesn't matter. Guitars, and you said it, and this just reinforces it. They usually will probably most likely go sharp from guys playing them hard, pulling strings and pulling frets. Right?
Hard.
So, and a lot of jazz guys and a lot of classical horn players will play down on a pitch. They'll play low. They'll play the opposite way. So now you have the spectrum of, you're talking about, a piano register on the bottom and then guitar on top. Now you have a horn player that's playing low on pitch, and everything on the opposite end on the guitar and everything else is high on the pitch. It's like the worst sounding thing you ever want. It's horrible. It's like you want to kill yourself. So, purposely, man, play, you always play on top of the pitch as a horn player, which is very important. And, so those are the things that kind of are cross-referenced with what you were saying. And I know we've been going on a rampage, but I love it.
But when you can recognize it and correct it, that's the success part. That's where you find your spot, and you can carry on and get through a show without it sounding, because the more you listen to the music that you play, the more you notice who's not really in tune and who's not. It's like this guy's, he's behind, he's a little bit flat, but he if he could correct it, then it's okay. But if you keep noticing it, then you're like, it starts to make it crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
And I think the older we get, the less we tolerate that tuning thing. maybe I just don't hear it that well. It just sounds worse.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I got you. Well, Stephen,
get too much of that on our stage.
No, if you do, there's a problem. So.
Yeah.
That being said, let's regroup here and see what the chat's talking about, and seeing if we can hit some things that are a little not different, but see how everybody's hanging out with us tonight.
All right.
Yeah, we got a couple of things, and Carl, you kind of started to touch on it already, but there were a couple different questions for horn players. One of the students that we have in the chat is asking, how important is a good guitar tech for you as a trumpet player on a band like this, and how much of that do you actually like to have in your mix?
Okay, so the first question, let's try to do lightning rounds, because I just realized that Chainsaw and I have been blabbing for an hour and a half, so I'm going to try to keep these short and sweet. The first question was regarding how's my stuff revolve around guitar tuners. I fish with them. I ride motorcycles with them. We abuse people. We eat. What else do we do?
Pedal boards. I build pedal boards.
He built me a wonderful pedal board for actually I used it on Wonderful World. I used it on that video. You can actually see me stomping Chainsaw's pedal board. I'm probably one of the few guitar trumpet players that have a wonderful custom pedal board that Chainsaw built for me. That's gorgeous.
There's not many.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. I use the H9 stomp boxes by Eventide. But yeah, I mean, as far as in-ears and stuff like that, I have a very general mix of the band. Obviously, I hear Tommy. I hear everybody in the band very well. Certain tunes I don't want to hear too much because it depends on where I'm at on the stage at that time. But every part of that stage, whether it be a lighting guy tweaking a light, Chainsaw making the guitars happen, Teddy working with drum heads with Chuck Berge on drums, Mike Clavana making a Hammond B3 organ sound great, Wayne taking care of Billy's piano, Josh, and of course the best sound engineer in the world, Brian Ruggles out front. Everybody has a role, and it's all pieces of the puzzle that come together. That when they come together, man, it's right, Chainsaw. It's like, man, this is fun.
I call them building blocks. And everybody has their piece and they have to put it in the right spot, and it has to stay there and not move for 2 hours and 40 minutes, and when you get that to happen, you become successful and you become good at what you do. And, it's very important. Everybody on that tour, I don't care who it is, they all have their building block and their part to put in place. And I've used that as an analogy for a long time.
Beautiful. I think that answered those questions, Steven. What else you got?
Yeah. You mentioned in-ears a little bit, and we have a student in the chat. They're doing a paper right now. They've been studying touring acts that have sound isolated under the stage. And the only sound is coming out through your ears, and they're asking if musicians have to get used to the sound sounding closer to them than they're physically on the stage. Like Tommy's over on the farthest away from you. Does it take some getting used to for you to be able to hear him that close?
Well, I'll just touch this really quick, and then Chainsaw can follow it up, because Chainsaw has a different opinion on this because it's totally different. Horn players, Mike Del Judas, Andy Sachon, Dave Rosenthal, Chuck Berge. Am I missing anybody? Crystal. Mark. Everybody's on in-ears. The people who are not on in-ears, Mark Rivera is not on in-ears. He has a monitor. And Tommy is on amps and monitor, and Billy is on monitor. And so what that means for the guys playing in-ears is it's a spatial thing. And it takes a little while to get used to, but it's funny, if I go over to Tommy's side and go laugh at Chainsaw, halfway through the night I usually go over to Chainsaw and we laugh. But it is when my ears are out, or even when my ears are in, hearing Tommy's guitar through his rig is like, and his rig's not on stage. It's earth shattering. If I get close to Billy when I'm playing tenor sax, and all saxophones, we all come out front on stage left in front near Billy. If I get too close to Billy's wedges with my in-ears, it's like, whoa! If you see me, everybody makes fun of me. Why do you have a hand always in your pocket? Well, my volume control is in my pocket. That's what I'm touching. And I'm always tweaking my volume control depending on where I'm at, or how loud I'm playing, or how loud someone else is playing. Always trying to we have great mix. Josh and Jay mix wonderful from the side of the stage, but it's very easy for me to go to a volume pot. But so how does that affect you? Because I know Andy, Chainsaw, with Andy, you have to have a bass shaker underneath the stage, and you've tried a lot of different things to get the right ingredients for that. So how do in-ears and speakers affect your gig, buddy?
Well, it's like the war of two worlds. You've got the guys that want to be isolated or need to be isolated, and they're on their ears, and they have their own little there's
World.
bass, and they can work with as long as they need to with Josh to get that right. But from song to song, and depending on where, sometimes you're out front playing, sometimes you're up on your riser, sometimes you do like you move around a little bit, and as you move on stage, you're going to be picking up the live speakers, which are Billy's wedges, Mark's wedges, Billy's downstage wedges, which are pretty hot, and then Tommy's mix. He's got his normal mix in front of him, but then he's got two more wedges behind him with just his acoustic guitar and electric guitar. And in that, he also has bass. He also has some Mike Del Judas guitar in that. And then, he gets all the stuff that he's singing along with, to harmonize with his vocal parts. He's getting that from the front wedges. I'm thinking, that's the way it used to be. And he's probably hearing the drum somewhere in the middle of that for rhythm. And but when you go over to Tommy's zone, it's no joke. It's loud.
It's loud.
And it gets louder as the night goes by.
Yeah, man.
And that's only because that sometimes it just needs a little boost here and there. But it has become manageable for us, and it probably saves the guys that are on ears. It probably saves their hearing in a big way to not be subjected to that every night.
Without a
and
doubt.
being able to control that. Like Dave Rosenthal being right behind those speakers is probably blown out, and if he doesn't have those ears in and sealed up perfectly, it could be pretty. Overpowering. We used to have 2 or 3 amps up there, lined up, and they were open back amps, and they were right against the riser where Dave Rosenthal is, and we'd have to put foam behind there, cover it up with blankets and moving blankets and stuff like that, just to get Dave through the show. And it's not really fair to Dave, but Dave understands.
He's a good sport.
I have something loud.
But it's about the man. But you said it best again. You have these great little diamonds. It's about managing and controlling the stage volume for BR out front, because the less noise, and this can go back to the student, the less noise that's happening on stage, as far as open air monitors and amps, the more control you can have out front.
And when you, Tommy is the one exception on stage. Everybody else is pretty civilized with their levels.
Sure.
But like even Billy's, and there's a couple of those fillers, back there by the risers that kind of, help Billy out with some stuff and, kind of fill in the stage a little bit. But the fact that the stage volume is not over the top.
Yeah.
In general, like the drums are controlled. They're behind plexiglass. The percussion is kind of isolated. The horns are horns are loud by themselves, but they're not.
Wait, is there horns in this band? I didn't know there was horns in this band. Is there?
I know of one at least.
Well, because I'm reading a little thing in the Billy Joel tour book. That is so eloquently written by Ricky LaPointe, who's a poet. And, he says, best friends catching up after being separated by the pandemic for so long. A piano, keyboards, drums, and guitars are silent for so way too long. Where are the horns? What the freak, man?
You brought your horn home with you and played it there.
No, they stayed out in the freaking road case, buddy.
I brought your road case to your house.
You did, didn't you? Son of a bitch. You had to be literal. I got to read that tour book thing. It's beautiful.
Had to swim out of that one way or another.
It was a good swim, but I am going to read that to everybody because it's killer. And it's totally opposite, but I'll just hit it right now really quick. If you haven't, it just came out last gig in Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood, Florida. New tour book came out, Billy Joel 50th tour book, I believe.
Yeah.
And Chainsaw has a beautiful, Chainsaw writes some really cool things, man. And so he's talking about his perspective rehearsals of 2021 in July. We ascended upon a small town of Lidditz, Pennsylvania, most of us venturing away from our homes for the first time since the shutdown. You know, he just, man, you know, for a freaking guy with chainsaws and you know, and loud cars, man, you write some really cool stuff. So if you guys have a minute, link to the Billy Joel site and check out. The book is amazing. Myrna, our friend Myrna, has some beautiful photographs of everybody in the crew and the band. And Mike Colucci has some great photos, and our friend Marianne Stone. And Chainsaw has a beautiful forward. Actually, was it a forward? What is that exactly you did, bro? And how'd that come about? It's beautiful.
I don't know. We never really even called it anything. She just wanted me to write a couple paragraphs to kind of, you know, describe what it was like to go from doing nothing for 18, 19, 20 months and being away from the jobs that we did for 40 years. And all of a sudden, you know, nobody ever thought that anything would stop the music business. Live music would always survive. No matter what, people were ready to spend their last penny to go escape and listen to live music for 2 or 3 hours, and it didn't matter. They'd run their credit cards to the limit just to get tickets to go see, you know, a show, just to escape what else was going on. We survived, you know, the Gulf Wars. We survived, you know, after 9/11, where so many things were shut down. We were instantly going and doing benefits and doing live music. It was only 2 or 3 weeks before I found myself on a plane after 9/11, going to New York to do a benefit.
Beautiful concert. Hurricane Sandy benefits, 12-12-12 concert with
stuff
the
like
Stones.
that. I mean, the music business has just always survived. The live music business, that's the part of the business that I, exist in. But the record business, the recording stuff, maybe not so much, but live music has always been a staple, and people have always, made it a point to go and see live music, even in the worst of times, just even if nothing else, an escape.
Yeah,
but the nature of what happened in, I guess we'll call it 2 years ago now.
Yeah, man.
Nobody would have ever thought that no matter what it was, it would ever stop what we did in its tracks. I never thought in 40 years of being in music that would ever happen. And when it did, I don't think any of us knew what it was going to turn out like, what was going to happen, if this thing was going to like catch up to everybody and kill us all off. Who knows? We had no idea. It was, there was a lot of fear. There was a lot of, emotion. There was a lot of, disappointment. There was a lot of, anger. I mean, there was all kinds of things that came to the surface, but all in all, we stayed in touch with each other. We called, we Zoom meeting, we texted constantly. What do you think is going to happen? Oh, I think it's 50-50 chance we might do this. And it was always 50-50 chance. Always, nobody ever said, I think it's probably 75% chance we'll do a gig. Yeah. It was always 50-50 because we didn't know. Yeah. So there was this like huge mystery hanging over us, and we didn't know when it was going to end. I mean, we would be guessing from day to day, just thinking, what am I going to do? And as it turns out, we did okay. We're very lucky that we were able to do okay, and we're blessed in many ways. But the fact that we stuck together and wrote it out and emerged on the other side, I kind of call it like in the encores when the band comes back up the steps and the whole stage is covered with smoke machine smoke, and they walk out of that and they're back up on stage. It's that same reaction that the crowd has when, oh, they're back.
Yep.
and it was like that for us. Just being in that rehearsal building, that place that had been empty for so long with all our stuff that was like all sitting in trucks in Nashville and just sitting dormant. All of a sudden we have to like get it to come back to life, and we couldn't wait for that moment. And when that moment happened, it was very special, and I was very blessed to be there and still be there. And so we're very lucky. And a bunch of our old friends who didn't make it through this, and a bunch of entertainers that kind of went down, and it's very sad. But luckily we stayed above the surface and did okay.
I gotcha. And so that being said, you were on episode 7. I started this with Steven because we weren't gigging. It was the pandemic. This was our way just to kind of hang out with my friends and talk and whatever. And so, here we are, episode 61. But the icing on the cake is the last paragraph, again, of what you wrote in the tour book. And everything that Chainsaw just said, his eloquence of the pen, he says, all of the unsure thoughts of the future and the possibility of another shutdown was gone. All of the speculation was finally over. We were together again, and it was time to get down to the biggest priorities: the music, the show, and the fans. And so, man, there it is. And you're back. We're back. So you're back, buddy.
I'm back.
I'm back. So I'm glad to have, it was your birthday last week. I'm glad to have you back here and hanging, and you're hanging with us. And so, before we move on, let's just think about, I'm sure there's some, actually not think about it. I'm sure there's a few things here on the chat that we can hit before we kind of put a period on it, because we've been rambling for a while, man. I love it.
I'm glad I got a comfortable seat.
Yeah. It's great.
We got a lot of people are kind of taking it all in. I see the viewership increasing, but our chat is kind of listening. We got lurkers tonight.
Cool.
But one of the we did have a couple musical things, but a lot of questions about who your Super Bowl picks are.
Is that me?
Does anybody care?
I know we're flying. I think both of us are. We're flying back from the Garden, aren't we? I know. I can tell you this. I don't want. I don't even want to say anything. I'm not even going to say anything because I'm going to get in trouble either way.
All right, we'll leave that one up.
Sunday will happen. It's not our teams, right? Chain, whatever you.
Neither of the teams are really a team that I back, but I have respect for both of them, and I have respect for a lot of the players on both sides. But I don't know. It's a tough one. I think that the Cincinnati quarterback is very good.
Yeah.
And I think that he's got some tricks up his sleeve, but the other, both teams are very well structured and they're both well coached. And I hope it's going to be a good game. That's always what we want.
Cincinnati, baby. Cincinnati. I want Cincinnati. If I had to put money on it, it would be that. But again, I'm not really in it, man. I'm not there.
I'm kind of leaning that way, but I was pretty impressed with him on the playoff where he came and pulled that off. I think he did really well. And if he can operate like that under pressure, he's got a future.
Yep.
Yeah. I know what you guys are actually waiting for. You guys are waiting for spring training.
I heard there's no spring training now. Right now there's a lockout.
Are we going to have a baseball season or not?
I don't think so, man. It doesn't look good. There we are at Yankee Stadium there, you and I with our mugs there, and
Yep.
We are very fortunate to go to many Yankees games. We have our
Yep.
friend, our buddy, um, who has wonderful tickets. But man, right now, usually the last 2 years, I've gotten an opportunity to play for the New York Yankees spring training, the Star Spangled, the national anthem at Steinbrenner, and I haven't been able to do it. One was the pandemic, and another was a scheduling issue. I'm wondering if we're going to have a baseball season. I don't know.
I'm worried about it.
Yeah.
We've been denied our access to our baseball games now for a couple of years. So it's time that we get back. Hopefully there's so much money in it, they'll figure something out.
I hope that they can figure it out because we need to start going again.
Yeah, it's definitely one of our favorite things to go do, especially the hot dog part.
The hot dog part, the peanuts, and bitching about everybody who's playing badly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we're about 5 minutes before 2 hours here. And,
we can make 2 hours.
Yeah, I think we can too.
I think I could come up with something to talk about.
Yeah, 2 hours will make it. No one's told. Yeah.
Yep.
We have show and tell if you want.
Oh yeah, you got a whole wall back there.
We got on the Colbert show. He brought his guitar for show and tell. I could do that. I've got some cool stuff.
Well, we can hit that in a second. I want to be sure that we hit all the things that we need to hit because I like to keep everybody enthralled in the community, and then we can go to hell with ourselves, which I think we can. I think you and I are good at going to hell with ourselves, aren't we, Chainsaw?
Yes.
We actually had somebody. This is from a long time ago in the conversation when you guys were talking about a highway to hell. Somebody's asking, Chainsaw, were you ever in bands yourself?
Technically, yes, but like I said, I realized at a young age how hard it was for 4 or 5 guys to play music together, and B, get along with each other long enough to learn some songs, because I tended to be somebody who was just like, trying to join a band that was already established and become a bass player in a band or something like that. And like I said before, I wasn't very good, so I didn't really have a lot of chops to show off, but I was able to at least sing some songs. And I use the word sing because I'm just like was behind the microphone, but the songs that I did do when I was in the band, I was more singing than playing bass, because my bass playing was very basic. And so I concentrated a lot more on the words and the screaming part. So, but there's being in a band is a serious job, and it's something that you really have to be tolerant for repetition and getting along with people who may not think the way you do all the time. And arguments about stupid little things come up and make it very difficult. And that probably that was my problem. Not everybody's like that. Most people power through it, but I was, not as tolerant as I thought.
You come on. Nah, I can't see that, Chainsaw. What are you talking about? I can't imagine that. Come on.
I love the thought of being in a band, but when I realized that it was not what I expected it to be, I didn't really. It didn't break my heart. So I went and drove race cars for a while instead. Made a name for myself on the streets of the Chicago suburbs. There goes Chainsaw.
Yeah, right. Carl, I've actually got a couple in here in the chat from earlier in the show for you. If you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about, from an equipment perspective for a horn player in a guitar and piano driven band, you know, what do you look for in an instrument and also in a microphone? And
One that can play very sharp.
Yeah. Can I
Like
push it further
before.
in?
Yeah, can I push the tuning slide as far in as I can? Yeah, and throw the microphone and bust it. So the question is, equipment-wise, yeah, I mean, you know, we're not playing in a symphony orchestra where I'm playing with a very controlled, focused, small sound. I mean, the smallest place we played was probably last week was 7,000 seat theater at the Hard Rock Casino in Hollywood, which is probably one of the smallest places we played in a while. And the biggest places we played was Coliseum in Rome for 500,000 people. So what I'm saying on that, as far as equipment wise, is when you're dealing with a lot of electrical instruments, you have to think about focus, you have to think about intensity, and you have to think about a big wall of sound. And so it's all about spatial. We were talking about in-ears and speakers earlier, all about stemming from your acoustic sound of trying to get it as big and not piercing, just having if you have a look at a equalizer, like a 32 band EQ, you want it to be very flat. You don't want certain frequencies to be peaking. Each instrument's going to have its own peak as far as frequencies, but what I'm getting at is you want to be able to have a lot of overtones and a true big ringing open sound, because that's going to help you find your sound and have your spectrum in that sound. There's so much going on in these arenas, especially stadiums too, but arenas are a different scenario where there's a lot of bouncing going on. And again, we have the best sound people in I believe in the world. But what I'm getting at is being able to have a really big, fat acoustic sound and knowing where that lays in the spectrum. And what I mean by that is when I'm practicing, just trying to have just a monster sound. And what's going to help that is what Chainsaw was doing earlier by holding up a microphone. Been very fortunate to have a company I've been with for over 20 years, a relationship with Applied Microphone Technology. And we developed a mic years ago with two gentlemen there. One of them is a great organist who's in my Organic Groove Band, Rano Swansky. And we developed a microphone system, AMT microphones. They're clip-on mics. And what I believe, a lot of people don't believe this, but I don't have anything clipped on my bell. What does a trumpet do? It wants to resonate. As soon as you put a clip on something, you stop the vibration. Just like putting a sock on a cymbal, or Chainsaw's talking about different fat straps on a body of a guitar. It's not gonna vibrate as free. Same thing with a trumpet, man. With a bell, you're not gonna put a clamp on a bell and expect that thing to vibrate. So we developed with AMT a very unique mounting system where the microphone, the wireless microphone, is not mounted on a bell. It's mounted on the body of the horn. And that enables my horn to vibrate. And I think that is a very important thing to get the spectrum of sound out. And I notice when I hear even YouTube videos of live performances, we have great sound man, and Brian makes every instrument speak in that arena. And I think we have a lot of help from the microphone and also the sound man. So I think it's very important to have that. And also we use the AMT microphones for our saxophones too. The sax bells are not as vibrant. The body of the saxophones, whether it be alto, soprano, or tenor, that are on our stage, the vibration is on the stack itself. It's not really on the bell, whereas a trumpet really resonates from the bell. So it's not as important to have a clamp on the bell on a saxophone. You can put a clamp on the bell and be fine. So I think that's important. Hopefully that answered those questions.
Yeah. We have Maurice is a trumpet player is joining us. He's asking, how much work did you have to do with the sound guys when you changed your setup to the bent bell?
None. Absolutely none. Same microphone. I just changed the angle of the. Thanks, Maurice, for noticing that. Just change the angle of where the microphone gets the sound from the bell. Just changing the gooseneck. I think Brian Ruggles. I need to have Brian on here again, who's our sound engineer. He's noticed some things out front. I haven't noticed it because I'm not out front. I hear it acoustically. The bell is in my face, and the reason why it's up in my face is I can hear it better, even with in-ears in it. Again, Chainsaw was saying about a lot with vibration, with straps and tuning. Same thing with moving the bell. Man, it's in a different spectrum where I'm getting blown back to, and I hear a lot differently and a lot better, and that's helped me out acoustically. And I think Brian has mentioned, our front of house engineer, saying that every little tweak I've done, and the same thing I see with Chainsaw and Tommy's gear and Mike Del Judas's gear and Andy's gear, it's always evolving. We're always trying to evolve. Chainsaw and these guys are always trying to tweak their stuff to get a better sound. And I'm very fortunate. Mark's very fortunate, and Crystal is too. Wayne Williams and Teddy help us out with our horns. And we're always, and we have great sound engineers, Monitor Jay and Josh Weeble on the side of the stage. We're always trying to improve things. And, I'm always trying to improve, and Mark's always trying to improve, and everybody's trying to improve. Just get a better, it's got to get better, because you're not getting better, you're not learning, and you're not moving forward. So I'm always tweaking things to the point I'm probably going to be playing a different mouthpiece next week. It's same model mouthpiece, but less weight. And I've noticed some different things than a heavier mouthpiece. So, you just kind of have to evolve.
Mm-hmm. I think the last one that I haven't hit in the chat from earlier is for Chainsaw, and it's for a guitar
Thank God
player.
it's for Chainsaw. I'm tired of talking.
For a guitar tech in a yeah, right. For guitar tech in a touring situation like you're in, how much of the equipment choice is yours versus the performer, and how much work do you guys do together to decide on string gauges, guitar types, body types, things like that?
Well, we all have our input. Like Carl said, we're always tweaking things, and like we just changed to right before the pandemic hit, we had just changed out Tommy's second amplifier, and we had gotten two different amps to use, two Mesa Boogie amps to use, and because they were something that we noticed. We borrowed one when Springsteen came and played the 100th show, and I told the guy that brought it for us, I go, I got to get my hands on one of those for Tommy. So, a couple months later, we got another one of those amps and put it in there, and Brian and Tommy love it. Tommy can plug into almost anything and sound great, because his magic is in his hands. It's all here. It's all in his, the way he plays. But he could take almost any amp on the planet and find a good sweet spot and play and do great. And he's always been like that since he first showed up. And I usually stick with equipment that is dependable and that's proven. And when it comes to like effects pedals and cable and anything like that, I usually put together stuff that I am familiar with and have been successful with and not had problems with. We just went through a whole ordeal where we changed out our wireless systems for just about everything on stage because of frequency ranges being, affected by cellular phones and so on. So we just added all these new wireless systems to our whole, to all the guitars, to, across the board, we, changed a lot of that. And all that type of equipment has evolved quite a bit because it's been forced to perform better because of the frequencies that are not available anymore. You have to take the frequencies that you can use and work with them better and find a way to make them work, for you with dozens of different channels on the stage. And there's like so many different frequencies bouncing back and forth. You can't conflict with anything. So all of that stuff has gotten, has evolved quite a bit over the last few years. So we've changed that. We've changed some, some pedals out. We've changed at least, 1 or 2 amps. Mike Del Judas is playing one of those Mesa Boogie amps now for his main amp. We still have the Marshalls there. They're still a big part of everything. So we kind of split it down the line. And, but it's usually like, if there's like a certain, guitar company out there that, I don't like the way they do business, I kind of don't really like having them on our stage. So there are a few things that I kind of like frown upon and try to like encourage to not bring to work. But, for the most part, all the companies have been really, really good to us. And we're very lucky for that. And we're thankful and appreciate every single thing they do for us. But there is that one company, though.
There's always one. There's always one, Chainsaw.
There is.
Right.
I had a bad experience. It's not their fault. It's just all their fault.
So I've got one last one in the chat, and it is from an 8th grade student. Is asking a question for both of you guys. He said, I'm in 8th grade. I just started playing trumpet in marching band. And my teacher is telling me the importance of, in marching band, all of the trumpet players playing similar equipment. Is that the same in guitars? Is it important for guitars on stage to be similarly set up? And also for trumpet players who are playing with other trumpet players on stage in a rock and roll setting?
All right, I'll hit my line quick because just because a guy's playing a Bach trumpet with the 7C doesn't mean you have to, especially in marching band. So, no. Sorry to dispel that rumor. Your band director's probably going to be mad at me, but tell him to come over to my house. I'll talk with him. It's not like I don't have any trumpets here, and I don't know what I'm talking about. There's 38 trumpets sitting on that wall, and I take any of these out on a gig. Now, that being said, if you're playing in a big band trumpet section or in a symphony orchestra and you're very specialized in the music that you're playing, if you're not playing pop music, if you're playing very specific music, it is very important to have equipment that's going to lend itself to being able to blend and play together with other people in the section. So, for instance, I remember I was trying to be King Jazz player, and I show up in a big band. I got this I actually had one of this 1958 vintage Constellation trumpet, very different sound. It's big sound, but dark. And the lead player used to yell at me, he goes, you need to go buy a brand new horn. You need to go buy a Bach Stradivarius trumpet right now. Go sell your watch. Yeah, it's a Chinese. This watch is $50 right now. He thought I had money. I'm like, I don't have money. He wanted me to change my equipment so I could blend with him. And I didn't realize that certain things you really have to be cognizant. But when you're in a marching band in 8th grade playing in a field, no one's really going to notice. So whatever you can get to play, and try to match a lot of that stuff is internal. Chainsaw said it best. Tommy Burns can play any guitar and amp combination and make it sound good. My job as a musician is to be able to play any trumpet and mouthpiece and make it sound good and try to be able to blend and play in a band situation. Because it's a band, you're a part of a puzzle. You're part of the whole thing. So I think it's important, but it's not instrumental in being the instrument. That's really deep. It's not instrumental in the instrument, right, Chainsaw?
That's right.
So what do you got, man? I'm sorry, I went on tangent.
With guitars, there's so many different types of pickups and electric guitars, so many different kinds of acoustics, and so many different parts, and types of parts in all of our songs. So with guitars, if you got one guy playing a Les Paul with humbucker pickups, you may want to accent that with somebody playing straight coil pickups in a Stratocaster. You'll see that in a lot of bands that have more than one guitar player, like Leonard Skinner or the Outlaws, or even like Def Leppard or something like that. They will have one guy playing like humbucker pickups and the other guy's playing like a Strat with a single coil. It's a different sound, and it lends a little bit of depth to the actual guitar tone, especially if they're playing, off of each other a lot. So it kind of gives the sound guy two things to balance, and it adds a little bit of diversity to the actual sound of a guitar.
Yeah.
One sounds one way, one sounds the other, and you mix them together, and then it's like a harmony. If this guy's playing this and he's playing a harmony on a different type of guitar, or even the rhythm part or chords, and it's got a little bit different sound, it kind of opens up the sound a little bit, kind of like putting a reverb on something, or adding some kind of delay, or just slightly maybe playing a little bit off key, kind of there was a lot of that in the Southern rock bands back in the day, and so different instruments are very common in the guitar world, but consistency is very important as well.
There it is.
That's Carl,
consistency.
Just to go back to the trumpet thing really quick, and you talked about like the equipment importance or non-importance. I think that it's important to mention, especially for an 8th grader, what really is important that I didn't hear enough as a young player, is rather than focusing on the equipment, focus on sound, focus on playing in tune, focus on listening across the band. Those, if you have those 3 things, you're going to be leaps and bounds beyond most of the people that you're playing with at an 8th grade level anyway. If you have a focus on a big sound or a full sound, not pinched, you're not hurting yourself, things like that. You talk about this all the time in the clinics and stuff, the importance of sound.
Yeah, I mean, that is the first thing. That's very good observation, Stephen. It's the first thing everybody hears. One of the things I say in clinics is, what do people, when you go hear music, what are you listening to? Keyword is listening. You're listening to sound waves. You're not saying, oh, that drummer looked really cool, or he hit that tom-tom, or that tenor player, man, he bent his knees and he played a high note. It's all, it's a visceral type of thing. So yeah, at 8th grade, and again, I'm very harsh with this because I had some bad experiences when I was younger with band directors telling me I had to play certain equipment. Now, I couldn't afford certain equipment, and the equipment I had was very special to me because it was given to me by my father or a trumpet teacher I had or whatever, and it meant a lot to me. So I've been through this game with guys. Obviously, any equipment, like Chainsaw says, will have a different timbre. Like I said, I have 30-something horns here, and each one will have a little different nuance. But at 8th grade or 9th grade, depending on your level, and maybe he's playing better than I am, and I hope he is, because I'm playing really bad these days. But but what I'm trying to get at is, in 8th grade, man, focus on what Stephen said. The fundamentals. It's all about fundamentals at that point, and you should be able to get them out of equipment that is, I'm sure this at that particular juncture, when you're renting or buying beginning or intermediate equipment, there's not a lot to choose from. And the stuff to choose from, some of it's really good and some of it's really, really bad. And that poses the next thing I'll say is I've been wanting to put together an intermediate trumpet that for a beginning price for about 10 years now. And we just haven't been able to do it. The pandemic kind of put a chink in our armor on that. We just couldn't get it solid enough. But I really think there's a need for affordable, good equipment that everybody can afford. So I'll leave it like that.
Cool. Well, I know as far as the chat is concerned, we got some people saying hello, but we've pretty much hit all the questions. So I'll say thank you to everybody in the chat, and thank you guys as always for hanging with us and participating. It's always a lot of fun when people are going back and forth and there's a whole separate conversation going on in the comments. So thank you guys for participating. I'll do my business roundup here at the end. Like we mentioned at the beginning, we did release that Wonderful World video. If you guys haven't seen it yet, head on out to the YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button while you're out there so you get notified when we do all of the new videos and future shows, which I believe we got a couple guests lined up already for a couple of future shows, which Carl mentioned already. And for now, I'll close up the chat, and I'll say my thanks to Chainsaw for coming on here for a second time with us, and I'll say, along with somebody here in the chat, there's not many places where you can go where you get a real behind the scenes perspective like we've gotten over the last 60 episodes of one of the probably, record-breaking touring bands and the people that make them happen. It's really interesting, and for somebody like Chainsaw to come on, who's got 30 plus years of experience on this, it's definitely a nice thing. So thank you, Chainsaw, for that from myself and the chat.
Very welcome.
And I'll turn it over to you, Carl, for last questions and last words, man.
Cool. Well, Steven, you said it best, man. Chainsaw, we really appreciate you coming out, not once but twice. And I'm glad we got you, my man.
We didn't even get down to talking about fishing.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a whole nother episode. You might have to do a cameo when we do a fishing thing, because there's going to be a fishing thing soon.
Oh, I'm going to have a different background.
Yeah, you're going to have some, some gaffs and some avettes, some blue and orange, gator-driven avettes, which I know you have.
I've got them all.
Cool. But yeah, Steven said it best, man. It's like, to come back twice now. I'm glad that you came back by yourself. Last time you were here was Wayne. I think it was you and Wayne's wonderful. We had a great hang. That's episode 7, I believe. So if you guys want to go back and check out episode 7, you can see Chainsaw and Wayne in their glory on YouTube. But I really wanted Chainsaw on here for 2 reasons. A, to welcome him. I haven't seen him in a while, so I get to hang with him. We're gonna be in New York next week. And
can't wait to get on the plane.
Me neither, buddy. And we'll be cold, but I also want to wish you a happy birthday, since it was your birthday this week, and have you out for your birthday. So, so that's wonderful. I'm going to also thank Steven again for wonderful 61 episodes, kicking butt and making us go as seamless as possible, even kicking the internet gremlins, which is not easy, dealing with Facebook and YouTube. I appreciate it, and keeping us honest. So thank you, Steven. And a little sneak peek, we are going to have a wonderful show next week. Like, this show was fun. We're going to start at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and we're going to have my boys from many artists, but the last artist we played for was Diana Ross. And this is the Diana Ross horn session. So we're going to have Ozzy Melendez on trombone, John Scarpula on saxophone, tenor saxophone, and Chris Carlick on baritone saxophone, which is the horn session for Diana Ross. We were out for a couple years with her. And we also played John and Ozzy. You'll recognize they have played with Billy and Chainsaw, and they've been involved with the last play at Shea. Chris and I lived in Brooklyn together and played many, many gigs together. So that will be fun. That will be the 15th. We're looking forward to that. Again, and Chainsaw, thanks for coming for the second time.
You're welcome.
I'm going to leave you with one more question. You have the last word. What are you looking forward to, my man, here in the future? What are you looking forward to, brother?
Getting back to doing our live music and being at one with the fans and with all the people who come in and out of our lives, to make just any show happen, with, between the stagehands and, our drivers, our crew, our, the band, everybody that stops you, if you're walking through the crowd and, want to ask you, I'm getting, I'm looking forward to getting back to that, because that's what we live and breathe on. And that is our comfort zone. And when we can, be next to a stage or on a stage or in a building or in the truck unloading or loading or plugging in a guitar to tune it, that's our element. That's where we do our best work. And we have done it for so long that, to have that interrupted for, for an illness is devastating. And like I said before, I never thought that anything would ever stop the live music industry, but it happened, and it's time for us to conquer it and get back to hearing all those notes played in the exact right spot and everybody's building block going right where it's supposed to go and staying there for 24 or 25 songs every night. And the people who do that, they should be patting themselves on the back for doing a great job. We have our best crew that we've ever had right now. Our band is at its very best. And of course, our fans are undying. They are always going to be our, our lifeblood. And, I have to say my hats off to them, because they really make it all happen. They are actually what the live music business is all about. So I just want to say, I love all the guys I work for, and I love all the guys that we work with, and everybody that comes to every show. I treat them all like, they were a friend. They come and ask me for a guitar pick. I trip over myself to give it to them. I have thousands of them printed just so I can do that. It's a simple little token thing, but I love, just connecting with people and, saying hi or getting messages or looking out in the crowd and seeing a sign with my name on it. What's that all about?
It's evident that you like that people, and people like you, and you're a people person.
Right.
It's that you enjoy yourself.
That point in my life where, I, used to try to be this intimidating roadie who was mean to the new guys on the tour. And then I realized that, hey, these guys aren't that new. They're as old as I am. So they should shut up. And now that I'm older, they can all kick my ass. So I'm a little bit nicer. I have show and tell right here. I just noticed. Last play at Shea.
There it is, Daltrey.
50-foot cable.
Yep, Roger
Daltrey.
It's Roger's mic. Look at you.
That's my show and tell for the night.
There it is. Can't go out on a better note than that. Who has all these things but Chainsaw? We love it, man. We love it. Well, man, we love you, brother. I can't wait to play music and laugh with you in a couple of days in New York.
I wish we could go sit at the Blakely Hotel in the lobby and have a Friday night hang.
Yeah, well, they'll hopefully in the future we'll figure something out, but at least we're together in New York again. So.
Yep, can't wait.
Safe travels, my man. Thank you for the fish heads and the Billy heads and all the heads for hanging out with us for 2.5 hours. And thank you, Stephen, for bringing us together. We'll catch you next time on the 15th next week. Same time, same place. Chainsaw, you the best. Everybody be safe and treat everybody like you want to be treated. Thank you.
Good night.